Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are unpacking what is honestly one of the most epic, foundational texts in all of human history. We're diving into the ancient records compiled by the legendary Chinese historian Sima Qian, and specifically, we're looking at his Chronicles of the Five Emperors. This is the thousands of years old story that details the legendary founding of Chinese civilization. And let me tell you, it's got a bit of everything. Massive battles, cosmic organization, and some seriously intense family drama. But right at its core, it's really a masterclass in the evolution of leadership.
So, here's our agenda for today's Explainer. 1. The dawn of Chinese civilization. 2. Establishing world order. 3. Emperor Yao and virtuous rule. 4. Emperor Shun's dramatic comeback. And 5. The border of history and myth.
Before we really get into it, I want you to keep this question in the back of your mind. If you held absolute power over an entire ancient empire, would you pass the throne to your own flesh and blood, no matter how flawed they were? Or would you just give it all away to a common peasant, simply because they were the most capable person in the room? Because this isn't just some dry ancient history lesson, this is a gripping, high-stakes psychological and political drama, all about inherited power versus true, proven capability.
All right, let's jump right into Section 1, Dawn of Chinese Civilization.
Okay, so before virtue and harmony could even be a thing, somebody actually had to create order out of total, absolute chaos. According to the texts, the era of the Shanrang clan was literally decaying. Warlords were invading each other left and right, and the common people were just being brutalized. Enter Huangdi, the Yellow Emperor. And he didn't just walk in and ask nicely for peace. No, he utilized weapons, built a highly disciplined army, and get this, he even trained bears, leopards, and tigers for battle. He went up against the brutally violent warlord Qi Yu at the legendary Battle of Zhulu, and he won. Huangdi brought all those scattered lords under one unified command. He essentially forged the very concept of the state, but he had to use necessary force to do it.
So we start off with Huangdi, the great unifier who pacifies the realm. But as the empire finally stabilizes, you start to see the priorities shift. By the time his grandson, Zhuanxu, takes over, the focus actually moves to ritual, really trying to connect the spiritual and the earthly realms. Then in the next generation, Emperor Ku is noted for his deep benevolence. He actually understood the urgencies of the people and acted with incredible moral integrity. Which brings us right to Emperor Yao, who basically represents the absolute zenith of this newly established order. With each generation, we're seeing this fascinating shift from pure military conquest into a highly refined cultural and spiritual administration.
Moving right along to Section 2, Establishing World Order. By the time Emperor Yao takes the throne, the goal isn't just about stopping wars anymore. It's way bigger than that. It's about aligning human civilization with the actual cosmos. Yao wanted to harmonize the earth with the heavens, so he does something amazing. He dispatches the brilliant Shi and He families to the literal four corners of the known world. Off to the east, Shizong is there to greet the spring sunrise. Down south, Shishu manages the intense summer solstice. Over in the west, Hezong guides the autumn harvest, and all the way up in the freezing north, Hishu oversees the winter hibernation. Yao used all of their celestial observations to establish a 366-day calendar, complete with leap months. He basically created the ultimate predictable agricultural order so his people could finally thrive.
Which leads us perfectly into Section 3, Emperor Yao and virtuous rule.
So Yao has created this magnificent, perfectly timed cosmic society, right? But then he hits a massive wall, a huge dilemma. He's ruled for 70 years, he's growing old, and he desperately needs a successor to keep this whole thing together. Now he's got his own son, Danzhu, but the historical records do not hold back here. They describe Danzhu as stubborn, fierce, argumentative, and just completely unfit to govern. On the flip side, there was a total commoner named Shun, just a guy living as a peasant, farming and fishing. But Shun was famous across the land for his incredible filial piety. We're talking absolute, unwavering devotion and respect for his parents. Yao realizes something profound here. Handing the empire to his son would benefit his own family, but it would ruin the people. Giving it to Shun, though, that would benefit the entire world. So he chose the people over his own bloodline.
And this radical decision? It gave birth to an incredibly important concept known as Shanrang. This is the ancient, idealized system of abdication. It's when a supreme ruler passes absolute power not to a blood relative, but to the most virtuous, capable person in the entire realm. Yao, bypassing his own son for a peasant, established the ultimate ancient Chinese ideal of meritocracy. It cemented the idea that power is a public trust, Definitely not a private family heirloom.
Let's get into Section 4, Emperor Shun's dramatic comeback.
Now, if you're sitting there thinking Shun just had it easy because he was so perfectly well-behaved, buckle up because we are taking a hard left turn into some ancient true crime family drama. Shun's mother died when he was really young. His blind father, Gu Sao, remarried and had another son, Zhang, who was, by all accounts, incredibly arrogant. The father openly favored this new family, and together they actually plotted to assassinate Shun multiple times. And why? Just so they could steal his meager property and the gifts that Emperor Yao had given him. These are the extreme stakes of Shun's rise to power. He wasn't just out there managing farms. The guy was literally surviving his own deeply toxic family on a daily basis.
I mean, these assassination attempts are like something straight out of an action movie. First, Shun's father asks him to patch the roof of the granary. Then, while Shun is up there, his dad literally sets the building on fire from below. But Shun is resourceful. He grabs 2 wide bamboo hats and uses them like a makeshift parachute to glide safely to the ground. Crazy, right? Later, they ask him to dig a well. Knowing his family, Shun secretly digs a side escape tunnel. And sure enough, while he's down at the bottom, his father and brother start shoveling dirt in to bury him alive. Shun slips into his secret tunnel and gets away. His brother even moves into Shun's house and starts playing his lute, totally thinking he's dead. But amazingly, Shun just walks back in, greets his totally shocked brother, and continues to serve his family with absolute forgiveness and perfect filial piety. His capacity for grace under literal life-threatening pressure was just unbelievable.
And you know what? That insane level of resilience is exactly what Emperor Yao was testing. 20. That is the number of years Yao tested Shun before finally handing over the reins. He didn't just give him the crown on day 1. No way. Yao made Shun manage the 5 duties of the family, oversee the government officials, host foreign dignitaries, and even sent him into a massive, terrifying forest during a mystical thunderstorm just to see if he would panic. And Shun never lost his way. After 20 years of rigorous, real-world testing, Yao officially abdicated.
Once Shun actually becomes emperor, he doesn't try to micromanage everything himself. He transforms from this traumatized survivor into a brilliant chief executive, and he puts together an absolute all-star cabinet. He appoints Yu as the Minister of Works to tackle the massive, catastrophic floods that were ravaging the land. He puts Qi in charge of agriculture to make sure the masses are fed. Shi handles education. Gao Ya completely reforms the justice system with clear laws. Kui directs music to harmonize the spirits, and Long manages communications. Shun just delegated perfectly to highly capable experts.
And here is where we get this incredible, beautiful symmetry to the whole era. When Shun grew old, he faced the exact same test Yao did. Shun also had a son, Shangjun, who the texts describe as, well, inadequate. And just like Yao, Shun chose to maintain that Shanrang ideal. He bypassed his own flesh and blood, and he abdicated the throne to Yu, the hero who had saved the empire from the great floods. The ultimate proof of Shun's virtue was that he repeated Yao's supreme sacrifice, totally cementing this system of merit over bloodline.
That leads us right into our final section, Section 5, the border of history and myth.
Now, I know what you're probably thinking. Escaping a burning building with bamboo hats? This sounds like pure mythology, right? Well, Sima Xin, the grand historian who compiled all these records over 2,000 years ago, he actually anticipated that exact skepticism. He wrote, "I have traveled west to Kongtong, north past Julu. Elders everywhere spoke of Huangdi, Yao, and Shun." Sima Xin was basically acting as an ancient investigative journalist. He physically traveled across the empire to verify these wild myths, and what he found was that even among vastly different local customs, the core stories, the oral traditions of these foundational emperors, they remained incredibly consistent and grounded in reality. They were deeply, permanently woven into the very fabric of the civilization.
So that leaves us with a pretty massive question to chew on today. Are the 5 emperors, Huangdi, Yao, Shun, and all the rest, are they merely exaggerated myths, or do the ultimate virtues they represent, this truly radical idea of choosing merit, capability, and the good of the people over your own bloodline, do that actually forge the enduring foundations of one of the longest-lasting civilizations in human history? The stories a society chooses to tell about its earliest leaders absolutely shape the reality of its future. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and I highly encourage you to keep questioning the history behind the myth.